Two Webster Groves employees misuse city credit cards on strip clubs, Cannabis, Airbnb, state auditor says. Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And I got a story for you today that's coming straight out of Webster Groves, Missouri, which is a suburb of St. Louis. You're talking about a tight-knit community, an older community. You have Webster Groves, you have Kirkwood, which are adjacent or adjoining to each other. When it comes to their history for high school football and sports, Kirkwood and Webster Groves have had legendary battles. Very small, tight-knit communities where you're talking about generation after generation. Mom and dad went to Kirkwood High School. Kids go to Kirkwood High School. Grandkids go to Kirkwood High School. Grandparents go to Webster Groves. Parents go to Webster Groves. Kids go to Webster Groves, etc. So you're talking about generational neighborhoods that are well kept and well run. St. Louis is a very rare city. It has about 90 to 110 municipalities in this metropolitan area. So you have places like Kirkwood, Webster Groves, Ladue, Chesterfield, Baldwin, St. Anne, places in North County, Florissant. There's a ton of municipalities that is very unique about St. Louis. St. Louis also is a place that is more about who you know than what you know. Very tight-knit community, very cliquish. This is one of the few major cities in America where the first question somebody will ask you is, where did you go to high school? It's to put you in a socio-economic box, whether it's private school, all boys Catholic school, all girls Catholic schools in West County, and or if you went to good public schools like Ladue High School, the Parkway School District, Webster Groves, Kirkwood. They have maintained a certain standard that has been respected for years. But also in this story, I am really surprised in today's time, in 2026, that you still have people, or we still have people that are working for companies and are stealing from them or misappropriating funds, whether they work in the finance department, other departments where they're handling money or credit cards. There is a digital footprint and cameras everywhere. I mean, we're almost at a cashless society. So for a person to conjure up a desire to get over on the system or commit a crime such as theft or misappropriation of funds or misuse of credit cards, you're going to get caught. And I always tell people stealing is very similar as an addiction to drugs, a drug addiction. And the best way, I tell people all the time, the best way not to get hooked on drugs is not to do drugs. So when you have people that are pilfering from their company's bank account or credit card account, say you do it once. Hey, I'm going to use my business credit card to pay my electric bill. Well, it gets to be so easy and so simple that you do it, maybe 2 or 3 months go by, you get caught up in a bind again, and then you decide to use your business credit card for personal use again. That's how that form of addiction is so easy to start and is so hard to stop. Well, we got two people that were in the finance department in Webster Groves, small, tight-knit community, where it's more about who you know than what you know for getting jobs and everything else. And these two individuals, these two guys, burned their bridges. So let's get into this story. Missouri State Auditor Scott Fitzpatrick released findings this week showing two former Webster Groves employees misused city-issued purchasing cards or credit cards for over $4,300 in personal expenses between May and December of 2024. Well, we're talking about $4,300, not a lot. But the thing that made this story interesting to me is what they used the money for, what they used the credit cards for. And you're talking about egregiousness, maybe arrogance, narcissism, hubris. I don't know what the diagnosis would be, but these two employees were identified as Eric Peterson, and listen to their titles: former assistant city manager and finance director. He's the finance director. And Jeff McDonald, a former accountant in the finance department. So they both in that same department. Did they do this together? Did they do it separately? Both resigned within 2 months of each other in late 2024. So it happened in 2024, but it just got exposed here recently. So what were the purchases? What makes this story have legs or tentacles to it? So the purchases, charges included visits to adult entertainment establishments, which would be strip clubs, cannabis stores, grocery stores, local restaurants, gas stations, ride-share services, an Airbnb rental, and an American Airlines flight. One credit card statement showed 3 transactions at a strip club in East St. Louis in Washington Park for $100 on November 27th, and 2 more charges of $30 and $43 on December 7th, just weeks before Jeff McDonald resigned. And remember, Jeff McDonald was the former accountant in the finance department. So how did this surface? How did they find this out? Here we go with the digital footprint. You always, in these companies, you're going to have an internal audit and an external audit, especially if you're working for the city, the state, government agencies, and even in corporate America. They'll have multiple audits going on, and they have red flag systems in place. If something is out of order, it's not fitting in the algorithm, it'll red flag it. And so it is almost impossible today with technology and its advancements to steal from companies. So the misuse was actually first caught internally by the finance department staff, by a finance department staff member who noticed monthly statements weren't being submitted on time and flagged unauthorized transactions by 2 senior department members. The city self-reported it during its annual external audit, though a local newspaper, the Webster Kirkwood Times, had also been separately investigating via public records request on this months earlier. So there must have been some rumbling going on. As I say, when you're in these small, tight-knit communities, gossip runs rampant like a virus. So, and especially even though St. Louis is a big city, it has a small town mentality. So the other findings, the auditor also found the city violated its own personnel policies by paying Peterson sick leave past his resignation date and paying McDonald for 13 days past his termination without documentation. So I'm sure they're trying to get that money back from those guys for overpaying them past their resignation and past their termination date without documentation. So what's been the city's response? As I said, this is in those small, tight-knit communities. If you're not from St. Louis, you're talking about a tight-knit generational communities where one generation after another ends up living in Kirkwood or Webster Groves. This kind of situation is going to reverberate all throughout those communities to the point where those two, they would never be able to get a job in Kirkwood and Webster Groves, and probably not even in St. Louis. The city's response is interim city manager Scott Davis said the city cooperated fully and that transparency and accountability remains the main priorities. External audits have since issued a clean audit opinion, and the state auditor said it won't pursue further investigation. The city has also tightened its oversight. Employees who don't submit required documentation will now lose their credit card access until they comply. So there was a small blip in an area like Kirkwood or Webster Groves. And here again, I tell you all the time, gun violence, crimes are not separated by race, creed, color, ethnicity, zip code, city, county. It can happen anywhere by anybody. This was an unfortunate circumstance. Tell me what you think about this story on these two individuals that got caught misusing their credit cards for all kinds of things like strip clubs, cannabis, ride sharing, Airbnb rentals, and that sort of thing. So tell me what you think. This has been the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth in a positive, righteous, and God-conscious way.